The midnight trade. Speak slowly, letting the imagery sink in. Picture a foggy, moonlit night in Edinburgh or London, sometime in the early 1820s. A family has just buried their loved one. They walked away from the graveyard, grieving but comforted by the thought that their family member is finally at peace. They are wrong. Just hours later, under the cover of darkness, two men slip over the cemetery wall. They don't want the gold rings or the expensive clothes. They want something far more valuable. They want the body. In 19th century Britain, these men were known by a strangely poetic name, the Resurrectionists, or simply, the Resurrection Men. But they weren't holy men, and they weren't performing miracles. They were professional grave robbers, running a highly organized, deeply illegal, and incredibly lucrative black market. Now, your first instinct might be to think of them as simple monsters or desperate criminals. And yes, they were criminals. But here is the ultimate twist of history. Without these gruesome grave robbers, modern medicine as we know it might not exist. Surgeons needed them. Medical students depended on them. The finest universities in the world secretly funded them. How did Western civilization end up in a situation where the only way to save the living was to systematically desecrate the dead? Chapter 1. The Anatomy Crisis. To understand the rise of the Resurrectionists, we have to look at a massive systemic failure in British law. The late 18th and early 19th centuries saw a massive boom in medical science. Surgery was evolving from a chaotic, bloody guessing game into an actual science. Medical schools were popping up everywhere, attracting thousands of students. And to be a good surgeon, you needed to study human anatomy. You couldn't just look at drawings in a book. You had to roll up your sleeves and dissect a real human body. But there was a huge problem: the law. According to British law at the time, specifically the Murder Act of 1752, the only bodies that could legally be used for medical dissection were those of executed murderers. The law used dissection as a final, ultimate punishment. It was meant to terrify criminals because, in the deeply religious society of the time, people believed that if your body was cut to pieces, you couldn't be physically resurrected on Judgment Day. Dissection was literally considered a fate worse than death. But as the judicial system modernized, Britain started executing fewer people. By the 1820s, only about 55 to 60 people were executed every year. Meanwhile, thousands of medical students needed bodies. The math just didn't add up. A single anatomy class could easily burn through dozens of corpses a semester. So, a massive, desperate shortage hit the medical community. Demand was sky high. Supply was near zero. And whenever you have massive demand and zero legal supply, a black market fills the void. Chapter 2. The Art of the Grave Robbery. Enter the Resurrection Men. These weren't clumsy looters. They were terrifyingly efficient professionals. A good crew of resurrectionists could enter a cemetery, locate a fresh grave, extract the body, and vanish in under 15 minutes. How did they do it so fast? They didn't just dig up the whole grave. That took too long and made too much noise. Instead, they used a brilliant dark bit of engineering. They would dig a small vertical shaft directly down to the head section of the coffin. They only needed to clear away about a third of the dirt. Then, they would take a massive iron hook attached to a rope, slide it down the shaft, and wedge it under the coffin lid. With one violent pull, they would snap the wooden lid right where the head was. Then, they would reach in, tie a rope around the corpse's neck or under its arms, and haul it out of the earth like a sack of potatoes. But here is a crucial law loophole they exploited. The resurrectionists would immediately strip the corpse completely naked and throw the clothes back into the coffin before filling the hole back up. Why? Because under British law, a dead body belonged to no one. It wasn't property. Stealing a corpse was only a misdemeanor, a minor crime punished by a fine or a short prison sentence. But stealing clothes or a shroud? That was stealing property. That was a felony, and it could get you hanged or deported to a penal colony in Australia. These guys knew the legal code perfectly. A fresh, high-quality corpse could sell to a medical school for anywhere between 10 to 20 guineas. In today's money, that's thousands of dollars for a single night's work. Gangs like the notorious London Borough Gang were making absolute fortunes. Chapter 3. The Public Terror and the Iron Defense. As you can imagine, the public found out, and the public was utterly terrified. Rich and poor alike lived in absolute horror that their grandmothers, children, or spouses would be ripped from their graves and chopped up on a surgeon's table. Graveyards became battlegrounds. Families started fighting back with everything they had. They hired armed guards to watch graves overnight. But the resurrectionists were smart. They would simply bribe the guards with alcohol or cash. So people turned to technology. Mort safes, massive, heavy iron cages placed over the coffin or the entire grave. They were locked tight and left in place for weeks until the body rotted enough to be useless to surgeons. Watchtowers. High stone towers built right in the middle of cemeteries where armed community members could sit with shotguns, looking out for midnight diggers. Churches with dead houses. Secure stone buildings where bodies were locked away and guarded for up to 3 weeks until decomposition set in, making them safe for burial. If you travel through Scotland or England today and visit old historic cemeteries, you can still see these iron cages and watchtowers. They are silent monuments to a time when humanity had to lock up the dead to keep them away from the living. Chapter 4. Crossing the Line. Burke and Hare. But as the defenses grew stronger, getting bodies from graveyards became incredibly dangerous. The prices of corpses skyrocketed even higher, and when the profit margins are that high, human greed takes a truly demonic turn. In 1828, in Edinburgh, Scotland, 2 Irish immigrants named William Burke and William Hare realized something terrifying. Why go through the trouble of digging up a dead body when you can just make a fresh one? It started by accident when a tenant in Hare's lodging house died of natural causes, owing him rent. Hare and Burke sold the body to Dr. Robert Knox, a famous anatomy lecturer, for a massive profit. Realizing how easy the money was, they decided not to wait for nature to take its course. Over the next 12 months, Burke and Hare murdered at least 16 people. They targeted the vulnerable, the poor, the elderly, travelers, and prostitutes. They developed a specific method of killing. They would get their victims drunk, and then Burke would sit on their chest while Hare suffocated them by blocking their mouth and nose. This left absolutely no marks of violence on the body, making it look like a natural death to the unsuspecting medical students. Dr. Knox asked no questions. He just handed over the cash. Eventually, they got sloppy. The police caught them, and the public went absolutely ballistic. Hare turned on Burke, testifying against him. William Burke was hanged in 1829, and in the ultimate twist of poetic justice, Burke's body was sentenced to be publicly dissected at Edinburgh Medical College. Today, his skeleton still hangs in the university's anatomy museum. Conclusion: the cost of progress. The horror of the Burke and Hare murders finally forced the British government to act. They realized that the medical system was actively incentivizing murder. In 1832, Parliament passed the Anatomy Act. This law completely changed everything. It abolished the rule that only murderers could be dissected. Instead, it allowed doctors to legally use unclaimed bodies, mostly people who died in workhouses or poverty without family to claim them. Overnight, the black market collapsed. The Resurrectionists lost their clients, and the trade died out forever. History often likes to paint progress as a clean, noble path of bright scientists working in clean labs. But the story of the Resurrection Men reminds us that the foundations of modern medicine are deeply messy. The anatomical knowledge that allows modern doctors to perform life-saving surgeries today was paid for, in part, by silver coins handed to grave robbers in the dead of night. Thank you for watching. If you want to explore more hidden, darker corners of history, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a thumbs up, and tell me in the comments, how would you protect a grave in 1820? See you in the next video.